give it a few seconds. I should be live in the right spot. I don't know if notifications are going to go out. Yes, we're live in the right spot. All right, guys, welcome in again. We're going to try this again. And since it didn't work out right the first time. Lexi, tell Mama if it's sideways or right side. I think we're good. Okay. Now, last night we tried this. Yeah, I think we're good. All right, guys. If you find me in here, I'm live, Kim Lolly Doodle Studios. You guys are about due for a free project, and I tried to give it to you last night, but it didn't work out as planned. So guess what? We're going to redo it, and I'm going to give you a little tracer for this one as soon as I'm done as well. So you'll see a supply list up there. I've got the Canson watercolor paper, just cut down to an 8x10 size. I'll show you again. This is a King Art brush tip pen. Use what you have on hand. If all you have is Crayola, they will work too. Okay, so I'm going to use my Pentel, the touch pens. I have like an ice blue, I have a light brown, and I do have a dark brown, I think. Let me go grab the dark brown. If you come in, guys, just let me know you're here. I know this is an off time for me, but I have the free time, and I want to be able to give you a nice free tutorial in here this month. I'm coming, guys. So anyway, remember about a week or so ago I asked you what your favorite ice cream was, and I like to do those sorts of things and then come up with like little pieces of art. That way, I don't know, it just kind of takes the stress off sometimes of, well, what do I paint? So I like to see. So I think chocolate was by far the winner. So we've got our brushes, the light brown, the dark brown. I've got like the fuchsia, magenta, red. And I have the light pink, but I do also have a cherry red. So we're going to use these 6 colors for the fake watercolor lettering, and we're going to use this one to map out our word, just like we did yesterday. So these I'm going to push to the side. We found out yesterday that the Tombow did not the small Tombow feuds did not want to release color like the Pentels did. So I'm going to just, I'll pull up last night's, we played around, and you'll see here, it just didn't give us a nice blend. And this was kind of just not the look I was going for. So I figured, all right, I wasn't able to get back on last night, so let's take it up a notch. And we're going to paint with our watercolor, with our markers. We're going to faux watercolor a little ice cream. It's on paper, but you could frame it, use it as a sign. You know, this would be cute for like a little party or something like that. You could swap it out for, instead of ice cream, do hot chocolate. But I'm just going to use my marker, and remember, we did all of our letters of all of the strokes, and I know about midway is going to be there. So the O in chocolate should be about here. So I try to map it out a bit. I'm going to use this marker to kind of cheat and put my letters in, right? So we learned all of these strokes in July. So we press down with the pen. As we come around, we lift that pressure up, press back. When we're going down, we press again. So there's our Choco, and then we'll just keep writing the word L A. Just kind of try to drop my sides just a bit here so that it just has like a nice little curved bit of a flow to it. And we can join those letters again. So there we go. Chocolate, chocolate, chocolate. Coffee is my favorite, and I think coffee, chocolate were in the running to be the winners, but we're gonna go with chocolate. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, right? Because now we've got our base on there, and I'll give you a template, and then you can use your brush pen to kind of practice over top of it if you want, and then you can come in like I'm going to do, and do the little bits of art. The only other thing that I might use that I did not put in the supply list, and I'll adjust it, maybe just a few touches of white paint, whether it be gouache or acrylic. We might just use a few touches of white paint there at the end. So to do our lettering, the chocolate, I'm actually going to use the 2 browns, and I'm going to use the red, okay? And I'll show you. I'm going to leave just a little bit of this color at the tops, and about halfway down, I'm going to come about the halfway point of the letters, and I'm just going to fill just a few strokes of the letters in with that mid-range brown. Again, if you don't have the set of these pens, use what you have on hand. Crayola markers, even like dollar store markers, they should all be water-based. And I'm not going to forget this little part of the letter. As long as they're water-based, this should work. Right? So it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm just going to come in here about halfway down, and I'm just going to put some of this mid-range brown just about halfway. So I'll go ahead and finish that up, and I'm just pressing really lightly. I'm just putting a little bit of the color down. I'm not stressing. That's the whole point of this, guys, right? I don't know what is wrong with me lately, but I'm beginning to wonder. I don't know. I think we're all ladies in here, but I'm going through, I'm like almost through menopause, but I think my hormones are just raging and I can't stand it. Guys, if anybody's watching this video and you've made it successfully to the other side of menopause, please give me a little bit of encouragement that this will settle down, right? Please, I need it. So I'm just taking that mid-range brown, and I'll zoom out just a bit now because I just wanted you to see. I think we're all in the screen now. I'm going to come back in now with that really dark brown. Remember the dark brown we used last night? And I'm going to just put some of that at the very bottom of the letter. And I think I'm going to come in here. My C did not join, so I'm going to use that with that mid-range brown. And right at the bottom of each of my letters, I'm going to do the same thing and add with my pen right on the dry paper. I'm just going to add some touches of that marker. I'll bring it up some. You could choose to do it completely flipped and have the really dark brown at the top. your art, you do it your way. This is the way I'm going to do it. So I know this is an off time, but hopefully a few of you will see it. This is a free project for the month of August in here. I hope that you like it. So I'm going to bring that brown just on each letter, the bottom of each letter. Where my thin is, I'm keeping it thin. Just bring it up. Finish off here with the thicker bit. Bring it up into the thin part. You can make your upstrokes a little bit thicker and then make your downstrokes even thicker. It really just all depends on the look that you're trying to get. Now, the only thing I'm going to deviate a little bit is that at the ends of my T, I'm going to put some of that really deep dark brown. And I'm going to put a little bit of this mid-range brown. Okay, and I think that'll be enough. Maybe I'll come back. I can bring that brown up a little bit more. Bring it up as high as you want, right? How's everybody's day been? Mine's been a little bit on the crazy side. And I sat here and I wanted to do something creative, right? Creative. I found peace in these paintbrushes. I find peace here, doing something creative. So, okay. So we've got our letters pretty much mapped out. I'm not loving this one, didn't match up really, really nicely. So I'm just going to fix that, okay? Now, for me, this is the fun part. Okay, if you do your letters really, really, really thick, which you can use a thicker brush. You just need just a small liner, even just a really small round brush will work. I'm going to start over here with the E first. Okay, so let me zoom in just a bit. I want water on the brush, but not to the point that it's going to be dripping water. And then I'm just going to use the point of my brush and I'm going to pull it just right over the letters. I can pick up a little bit more paint as I need it. And as I pull this chocolate brown up, I am wetting the marker. And you'll see, it all just starts to really blend together. And you get this really pretty faux, fake, however you want to call it, watercolor effect. Right? So this is really good practice if you want to take brush lettering off of the paper. So this is great practice on learning the brush control and forming those letters. And remember, guys, it's like when we use those apps in the car that tell us how to get somewhere, the GPS, right? They give us a few options of how to get to a location, and we choose the one, that we want to take. So once we get our letters on here, just like we did, to get the actual art going, doesn't matter how you got there as long as you get to where you intended to go. So we're taking a different route. We're not actually doing watercolor. We are doing fake watercolor with our markers. But nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna know, right? So I'll start at the top and I'll just start blending. See, I'm just lightly using the tip of the paintbrush And when that water hits, all three of those marker colors will activate and turn into a watercolor-like look. But like I was saying, if you want to brush letter, and I know there are a few of you that want to learn brush lettering with the actual brush, because you want to take this onto like wood projects or canvas art, this is an amazing way to practice using that brush and getting the feel for the thick to the thins, controlling the brush. I always find it easier to pull back towards myself, but then I can just help the color up a little bit with a few flicks of the paintbrush. Just like, oh, I just messed up there, but that's all right. We're gonna just clean our brush and lift that off. May not come off as nicely as watercolor. Yeah, it's not. It's gonna come up pretty darn good there. So I just wet my brush, I dried it, it's fresh water, and I'm just kind of mopping that color up. Now it's almost as like I didn't drip. So I'm gonna come in here and put some water on the O and watch as that activates there between those two marker colors, that watercolor effect starts to take shape, right? So I can soften this edge a bit. With the water, I'll bring some more of that color up. There we go. And we'll soften now down into the C. Just a little bit of water there on a very thin brush. You could do this with bubble letters. You could do this with your print. See how that's given us that really nice soft shading from one letter to the next. And then of course when I come back and look, I see little areas like here where I feel like it's not perfect, and I know there is no such thing, but I can come back just really carefully with the tip of that brush and try to get my smoothest line. All right, so we're just gonna keep working. We did all of that. We're gonna come here to the O. I will join my thin stroke into the next letter. Now we'll soften that. We'll pull that thin stroke across. Summer is not over yet, guys, so. But this would look cute too, like thinking ahead. I don't know how many of you have like hot chocolate or cocoa bars in the winter time, but that would be a great idea. You could do some watercolor style, fake watercolor style little signs for your cocoa bars or your tiered trays. That's where the quiet comes in. That's where the piece is, right in the paintbrush. So as you can see, I'm just wetting just where I already laid. That's way too much water. I'm just wetting the paper where I already placed the words with the marker. And we're just going to blend this out really nicely. Come back over here. If you see areas that don't look really well blended, you can just come back over with your brush, give it a good wiggle. To me, it just kind of does give you that chocolate effect. Something in there. So just pushing that water around. And I am trying to hit every area of the letter, both the thin strokes and the thin upstrokes and the thick downstrokes. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out again so you can get the whole effect there. So there's our word chocolate. There we go. Our whole word chocolate. And it looks like you used different shades of brown to watercolor the piece. Okay, now, I was going to use the red up in there, but I'm glad that I didn't. I like the way that it looks now. Once it dries, you can always go back and add like another color on top of it. It's not an issue. So we're going to bring the chocolate down here. What I'm going to do is use these as my watercolor. I have like some drips of chocolate sauce. Excuse me. But I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to outline. Honestly, sorry, somebody buzzed through. Let's go in here. Turn my paper. And I'm just going to use that marker and to outline the actual scoop of ice cream in here. Just placing an outline there. Don't put your hand in your wet words. That would be something that I would do. Okay, so don't do that, guys. So we're getting ready for master class. Those of you who have already entered into the master class, there are just a few markers that need to be shipped out. But everyone else, I think, should have already received it. If you have not, just shoot me a message and I can double check if you are in the mail or one of the lucky few that are set to go out this week in the mail. So I'm going to try this way. I mean, you can go through and just add. Really, we're just going to soften this with water. So just putting some color here and there should be fine. So I'm going to grab a little, no, I can just, because I only told you one brush. We're going to use this brush. This small brush, just the same brush that we did the lettering. I'm going to come back over it with water and just work that through to soften our marker lines. And we're just creating a nice soft shade of ice cream, right? I'm going to let this dry for a little bit and then we're going to work on it again. We're going to add some depth to it. So that'll be the next step. Could have done it all at the same time, but we're just going to try it this way. Okay, so that's the first layer of our little ice cream cup. Now we're going to do this one. So I am going to use this ice blue. Okay, and actually I'm going to hold off on the ice blue. We might just come back and do white. I'm going to take my pink. I'm just going to do a pink ice cream cup. Okay, so I'm going to take the pink. I'm not going to go on the rim. And I'm just going to color some of that cup in with the pink marker. I'm not filling every single little area. Just adding some color, right? Quick and easy to one side of the cup. To the other side, I'm going to use that deep, dark, hot pink that I have. And again, if you don't have these markers, it's fine. If you have the Tombow, the big Tombows, the dual ends, use those. If all you can get your hands on are a pack of markers from the Dollar Tree right now, they will also work. So I'm almost doing like a triangle here, and then the rest of the cup in the light pink. Then I'll come in with my brush and my fresh water. I'm going to just come in and do the same thing here with the pink. So just put a bunch of water on the paper, and I want to come in and wiggle, 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 wiggle that pink marker. You can use some more water as you need. You just don't want to like rip up your paper, but you can wiggle the water. Now, the fun is going to happen when I activate this bright pink and then pull it over towards the light pink. You can see what it's doing already. That's the fun, right? This is the stuff that I absolutely stinking love, right? So it's going to do what watercolor does, and it's going to do the blending for me. I can really get in there and wiggle if there's some lines that I don't like. I'm just going to spread that color across the cup. I might just finish it off on the other side with a tiny little bit of that pink. Maybe I will put a little bit going across the lid. You see how that bright, the pigment of that bright pink just starts to take itself across the paper. I love it. Love, love, love. So we're going to let that dry. That's not quite dry yet. I'm going to come in and I'm going to do my cherry. So where did I put my bright red? Here it is. We're going to take our bright red and we're just going to go around the outer part of our little cherry. Okay, that's all we're going to do. We're going to grab our wet water. Guys, grab your wet water. I'm going to grab my paintbrush with some water, and I'm going to, it's going to do the same thing we just saw the pink do, and it's going to start to work its way out and blend into the center of the cherry. The more water you put, it will just keep pulling that marker out from the edges. And let's do our stem. If you look real close, my stem is not touching the cherry. I'm just gonna come in with my dark brown, and I'm just gonna dab a little tiny bit of that dark brown there at the bottom of the stem. And then when I come in with my brush, just like we did for the letters, and I wet the stem, it's going to pull that brown up and down into the cherry, right? It's just going to create that little bit of depth that we would get if we were using watercolor, right? And that's still not 100% dry, but it's pretty dry. So I'm going to see if this will work now. I'm going to come in, and there were some like little ridges in the ice cream. You'll see that on your tracer if you print it out. So I'm just doing some little ridges there. You know, like ice cream isn't a perfect ball, it has those little ridges. You can leave it just like it is, or with, I just wiped my brush off. I'm just gonna wet it just a tiny bit and let it bleed up into the ice cream, just a bit, not a lot. I'm just activating it with the tiniest little bit of water, and you don't have to do this part. 100% optional. I don't know why every time I sit down to paint, my nose clogs up. Must be dusty in here. I gotta clean it. Right, so I'm just softening. Got a little bit of paint off the edge here, but that's all right. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. Okay. I can try to lift that off. Grab my bigger brush. I'm just going to wet that. So how do we erase watercolor? With water. So I'm just going to wet it with a clean paintbrush. Right? I'm going to let it sit for just a second, not long. And then I'm just going to try to slowly blot that up with the brush. And it should lift most of it off. Okay, it might not be perfect, but it can hardly tell it's there. Now, I want to do this top of the ice cream because it's like, to me, it's like the little chocolate on top of the chocolate. So we're going to make this really dark. I'm going to just outline with my darker marker. And guys, if you have other markers, just roll with it. Use what you have. You don't have to have. Just be careful because the cherry is pretty wet. So I am not going to touch the cherry. You'll see I'll go really careful around it. I go really carefully around the cherry. So that's my chocolate drizzle. I can fill that in pretty good. I'll do around or sideways. I will do some of my drips nice and dark where the chocolate sauce drips down. Fill it in as much or as little as you want. I'm going to leave some of the areas there white. Okay, and then we're going to come in again with our water on the paintbrush and wet that marker, and watch, it will do its thing and become fake watercolor. There's more than one way to use these pens as watercolor, and we'll explore that another time. But this is one way that I like to play around with the markers and soften them up, right? So it doesn't look like you went in with markers. So that's a little cup of chocolate. My pink is starting to dry. I'm not real thrilled with this side, so I will just come back in and I can straighten up my edges with the marker. Come around the cup. Right? Cherry is still not dry. I would go over that cherry again, maybe half of it, with the really bright red, so that the cherry looks really bright red on one side. Let's see, it might work this way. We can dab that marker on top of it. If it's not too wet, it will work. But see here, it's too wet and it won't work. So you get the drift, right? Then I can come in, I can use this ice blue to kind of give some shadow, even though this would technically be white. I can just pull some of that ice blue to give some depth to the top of my ice cream cup, right? And if this is dry all the way, I can then come in and I could maybe come in and draw some little hearts on the cup. But if it's not dry all the way, it will bleed. It's okay, right? It's our artwork. I'm going to color half of the heart in. And with the tiniest little bit of water, I'll pull that and soften it just a bit with the water. And voila, you've got a nice little chocolate faux watercolor sign, right? Would look adorable, like I said, for your next ice cream party. Imagine, you know, a whole bunch of these. You could do this, and then if you know how to do like digital art, you could scan these in, make them a smaller size. Hey, Cindy girl. I'm going to get you guys a template so that you can give this a shot. And I'll put that in here in just a few minutes. I felt bad I was not able to get back on last night. And I just really wanted to give you guys, it's been a while since we did a really nice project. So if you write the word chocolate, it would just melt. But that's the beauty of this, right? We could do that. That would look cute too. Like we could do some, let's do some drips of chocolate here, right? Just imagine where it might be dripping off of your letters. That would be fun. Last night's was kind of a fail, so that's why you guys got tonight's. It's last night 2.0, right? So instead of just the letter art, you got a full-on like little art project. So last night I used a different marker. I used the Tombow Feud, and they didn't want to play nice. So another reason why I love my Pentels even more. So look, I'm just going to come up and put some chocolate ice cream drips coming down off of my letters. But yeah, it's there, but I covered everything from last night in this afternoon's little art piece because it was a fail and I wasn't able to get back on. So you guys know me, like I feel really bad sometimes that I cannot do maybe some of the things that I think that I can fit in. And last night just ended up being one of those nights. So I'm just taking the tip of my wet brush again. So let those imperfections just work with you. In your art, right? It's chocolate. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be drippy and wet and messy. Especially if you guys got that 110-degree heat. We're hot today, but honestly, I know we're not as hot as some of you are, right? So check it out. I'm just going to add a touch of brown there to make that a little bit darker. And I will get you the template here. As soon as this dries, I'll trace it up so you get the exact same one that I did here today. I hope you guys like this. There is 1 week left if anyone would like to join Masterclass. There is enough time to grab your book on Amazon. You'll get it next day. But then just come to the website, Lolly Doodle Studios, and join Masterclass. And that gives me enough time to ship out your package, which includes your free pen, for Masterclass, which will start September 5th. So, I mean, we all have to start somewhere, and if we start learning how to make the letters, I really enjoy showing you guys things like tonight, where once you have mastered how to make the letters, how you can just the amount of things that you can do with them. All right, guys. Well, I hope you liked this little chocolate ice cream party. Go enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you back in here soon. But I will put this free template in here for you in just about a half an hour. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Again, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.